Chapter 1351. When the kids returned, they told me Mr. Graham had diarrhea and asked me to prepare some supper. So, that's what happened. Edwin couldn't contain himself any longer and joined Darius in hearty laughter. Mary, on the other hand, was quite reserved, letting out only a slight chuckle. Benjamin and Jonathan, who were in the dining room, could hear the hearty laughter of Darius and Edwin from there, drawing their attention. "What's got old Mr. Graham so cheerful?" Jonathan said with a laugh, looking over in the direction of the commotion. Darius' laughter was indeed infectious, and it was rare to see him laugh so heartily. Naturally, Benjamin couldn't answer this question either. After all, he was in the dining room and had no idea what they were discussing in the living room. Seeing Darius so happy, Orissa also broke into a smile. "He had to re-enter the restroom as soon as he got out when we were at the hospital. This plum juice is really something. Hasn't he taken any medicine?" Darius laughed until tears welled up in the corners of his eyes, his face feeling a bit sore. He raised his hand to rub it. "He took the medication afterward," Orissa said with a smile as she explained the situation at that time. Darius was laughing so hard he could barely contain himself. Let him suffer a bit. Serves him right for being so harsh on Gavin and the others. Orissa sighed. Thank goodness Benjamin is physically strong. If they were to toy with someone in poor health, it could cost a life. They knew their limits. They just wanted to teach Benjamin a little lesson. "You didn't hit them, did you?" Darius, still very protective of the kids, anxiously asked Orissa. Orissa paused, feeling a bit guilty. She hadn't hit them, but she had given them a good scolding. "We just punished them by asking them to stand." Darius nodded, feeling reassured. He felt relieved after seeing the kids were fine earlier. If Benjamin punishes them severely, you must protect them a bit. Don't let Benjamin go too far. They are still young. They should be punished, but not excessively. If their father-child relationship becomes strained, it could affect the children's growth. Darius still had a few words of advice for Orissa. As she listened, she felt a deep sense of guilt. It wasn't Benjamin who had been harsh in punishing the children those 2 times, it was her. She confessed in a soft voice, "Dad, I understand now. Benjamin knows his limits, too. When the kids teased him, he didn't punish them. It was me who did." Darius paused for a moment, then broke into a warm smile. "If it's you who's punishing them, then I have no worries. I fear that Benjamin would treat the children like adults and make them run dozens of kilometers." Orissa felt Darius' blatant favoritism, which moved her but also made her feel ashamed. Just a moment ago, she, too, had thought of punishing the children in the same way. "Dad, the kids are really naughty. They can handle this level of punishment. They've even become immune to harsher penalties. I've decided to ban them from using their phones and watching TV for the next week." Those words were also meant for Edwin and Mary to hear. Orissa felt that they should be informed, so she said it in front of them, hoping that everyone would together supervise the kids to prevent them from tricking them into going easy on them. Indeed, this is a good idea. Children watching too much TV or using mobile phones isn't good for their eyes. Oliver probably had to wear glasses because he used his phone too much. It would be best to limit their use of mobile phones in the future. Darius agreed, supporting Orissa's approach. Orissa laughed lightly. "If the children hear this, they'll surely feel upset. The kids are still very playful. Now, if we forbid them from using mobile phones in the future, it would be almost like depriving them of their freedom, especially the 2 youngest ones." Growing up alongside Benjamin, Gavin was more disciplined than the rest of his siblings. Tim had been living in the countryside since he was a child, rarely exposed to such things. However, recently, influenced by his younger siblings, he had also become somewhat obsessed. Zachary had always been decisive, thinking through everything he did, just like a little adult. He was somewhat similar to Gavin. Oliver had a greater interest in computers than in mobile phones and televisions and enjoyed programming. That was what led to his impaired vision. With that in mind, Orissa quietly reminded herself that she would have to confiscate their computers. Jasper and Jesse were utterly engrossed in anime and video games. They absolutely detested studying. When the older ones had some free time, they would also join in the fun with them. It was absolutely chaotic. Chapter 1352. Isa, would you like to lie down for a bit? Before Arissa could respond, Darius turned his head and instructed the butler, Edwin, please tidy up the sofa so Isa can lie down. No need, I'll just sit for a while. Arissa didn't want to cause any trouble. She just wanted to sit and chat with them for a bit before heading up. Lying down is more comfortable. Plus, you've been sitting for quite a while during mealtime. Darius stared at Edwin, urging the latter to hurry up. Arissa smiled, watching them prepare. The elders were insistent on their hospitality. Once the couch was ready, she graciously laid down on it with their assistance. Mrs. Graham, which do you find more comfortable, the couch or the rocking chair? Shall I bring in the rocking chair for you? Edwin was full of concern, fearing that she might not be comfortable enough. No need to move anything. I'm quite comfortable on the couch, Arissa said with a smile, raising her hand to signal Edwin to stop fussing. Isa, could you sit up a bit? I'll put a cushion behind your back. It'll be more comfortable. Mary took a cushion from the other side of the couch and placed it behind Arissa. Arissa lay back down, laughing. Grandaunt is really thoughtful. My back doesn't even ache anymore. Mary carefully covered her with a blanket, knowing that pregnant women were most afraid of catching a cold, and when that happened, they couldn't just take any medicine. Just wait a moment. Let me give you a massage. Mary said with a smile. She had been hospitalized before, and it was Arissa who had massaged her legs and feet. She had some knowledge of the technique. There's no need to go through all that trouble. Benjamin can help me with a massage. I'll be fine after a hot bath tonight. Arissa felt a bit embarrassed, but the elders were quite pleased to hear how attentively Benjamin was taking care of her. Please, Madam Mary, there's no need for you to interfere. Mr. Graham knows how to take care of Mrs. Graham. Edwin chuckled, hinting at Mary with a meaningful glance. Let the couple have their sweet moment. Don't ruin the moment for them. Even though Mary lived in the countryside, she understood that well and responded with a smile. Remember to have Benjamin massage you tonight, Isa. Make sure he massages your calves, too, so you can sleep comfortably. Arissa saw the elders all looking at her with smiles. She felt a bit embarrassed, and a blush appeared on her face. Darius chuckled, asking Edwin to prepare some more fruit juice. He also had some sent over to the 6 kids so they could hydrate themselves. Dad, stop spoiling them. Let them face their punishment properly. If you're even giving them juice to drink, their arrogance will be through the roof. Arissa gently persuaded Darius, saying, they're being punished, but if they still have water to drink, that won't seem like they're being punished at all. Should we hold off on serving them drinks then? Darius, who had tempered his temper considerably in her presence, pondered upon hearing her words. Edwin walked away with a smile, hurrying to prepare the juice, especially for Arissa. Yes, they can drink after they finish their punishment. Arissa replied with a smile, not wanting to feed the children's arrogance. Relying on everyone's adoration for them, they would become even more uncontrollable in the future. All right, then, Edwin, when you're ready, bring it over here first, Darius called out to Edwin. Understood, old Mr. Graham. Edwin responded loudly before heading toward the dining area. Benjamin and Jonathan were still drinking wine when Edwin also asked if they wanted some fruit juice. I don't need it, Benjamin responded. Edwin, get me a drink. Jonathan felt a bit tipsy and wanted to have some juice to sober up. Benjamin glanced toward the living room and asked Edwin, is Arissa keeping my dad company? Yes, Mrs. Graham is in the living room. However, we've had her lying on the sofa. We didn't let her sit for too long, Edwin said, knowing that Benjamin was worried about Arissa's health. Benjamin nodded. Knowing that Arissa was lying down, he didn't go over to the living room. Edwin, please serve a bowl of pasta for Jonathan. Chapter 1353. Yes, Mr. Graham. Edwin hurried over to take Jonathan's plate and served him some pasta. Jonathan glanced at Benjamin. Aside from a slightly reddened neck from drinking, the latter seemed completely unaffected. He shook his head with a smile. Not drinking anymore, Benjamin. Benjamin glimpsed at the man. Don't you have a court case tomorrow? Are you sure you want to keep drinking? Jonathan admired Benjamin's memory. Had they not called him out for a meal, Jonathan would still be sorting out case files and preparing materials at present. As long as I can get up tomorrow, this lawsuit won't be delayed, Jonathan said confidently. Benjamin raised an eyebrow, reminding him, take it easy. When you really have time, we'll drink again. All right. It's not as fun with just the two of us today, huh? Let's invite the others for another get-together next time. Jonathan took the plate of pasta handed over by Edwin and started eating. It was necessary for one to eat some food after drinking quite a bit of alcohol, or else one might wake up hungry in the middle of the night. Mr. Graham, let me serve you a plate too. Edwin walked over to Benjamin, and upon seeing the latter nod, he took Benjamin's plate to serve the man some pasta. Just half a bowl will do, Benjamin reminded Edwin. Hearing this, Jonathan chuckled. Benjamin, you eat too little. I reckon even Orissa has a bigger appetite than you. Benjamin rolled his eyes at his pal. Orissa was no longer at the dinner table, so he had lost his appetite. If it weren't because she had reminded him to eat some food earlier, he wouldn't even want to eat right now. Mr. Graham, Mr. Patterson, would you like me to cook a couple more dishes for you too? Edwin took a gander at the dining table, noticing that most of the food had been eaten. No need, I'll only have a plate of food. These dishes are enough. Jonathan was not like Kingsley and the others. He waved his hand to stop Edwin from fussing. Edwin, get me a glass of juice. I need to sober up. Are you drunk, Mr. Patterson? Shall I make you a hangover remedy? Edwin asked with a smile, ready to prepare it at any moment. I'm not drunk yet. Juice will do. Jonathan glanced at Benjamin across the table. The latter was busy eating and paying him no mind. Sure, take your time eating, Mr. Patterson. Edwin called out, then quickly went to prepare some juice. Benjamin, how long do you plan to leave Kingsley over there? Jonathan took this opportunity to bring up the matter of Kingsley. After all, they'd all grown up together as buddies, so he didn't mind pleading on Kingsley's behalf. Until he can't hold on any longer. Benjamin responded calmly, not at all worried about Kingsley's survival skills. Upon hearing these words, Jonathan could only secretly sympathize with Kingsley from the bottom of his heart. There was nothing else he could do anymore. So, we're just letting Justin off the hook. He changed the subject, curious about Benjamin's plans so that he could prepare himself. Benjamin's eyes narrowed slightly. He said in an indifferent voice, the mastermind behind this is Julian. Even if it goes to court, it won't affect Justin in the slightest. We gotta hit him where it hurts. The Rogers family will absolutely not let him continue his reckless behavior. Jonathan stared at Benjamin for a moment, then gave him a reminder. I heard through the grapevine that Justin has a maternal uncle in high places who holds quite a significant position. Otherwise, Justin would have long been done for, considering his behavior all these years. Benjamin narrowed his eyes and fixed his eyes on Jonathan. Isn't his mother an only child? Jonathan also found it strange, but he had done some private investigation. I heard he's an adopted son, but for some reason, it was never announced. Others have always assumed that his mother is the only child in her family as well. You should be careful, regardless of whether this information is accurate or not. Benjamin nodded, taking note of the matter. If it's true that Justin's confidence all these years comes from this uncle of his, then I really need to investigate thoroughly. How about asking Kingsley to secretly investigate for you? Jonathan seized the chance to bring up his buddy again. Benjamin fixated his gaze on his pal, abruptly asking, how about I send you there? It would be more convenient for you two to investigate together, wouldn't it? Jonathan gave an awkward laugh. Forget it. Let's not talk about that guy anymore. He deserves it. Chapter 1354. Edwin prepared some fruit juice and also conveniently made a cup of hangover remedy for Benjamin. He carried them out, first offering a cup of juice to Jonathan. Your juice, Mr. Patterson. Thank you, Edwin. Jonathan replied with a smile and took a sip. Seeing Edwin also bring a cup over to Benjamin, he raised an eyebrow. Didn't Benjamin say he didn't want one? This is a hangover remedy. Edwin grinned and told Benjamin, "Mr. Graham, have some. It will make you feel better at night." The latter nodded, signaling Edwin to put it aside. "Enjoy your meal. I'll take this to Mrs. Graham." Edwin turned around and went into the kitchen to bring the rest of the juices to the living room. "Edwin, are Benjamin and Mr. Patterson still drinking?" Orissa asked, sipping her juice. "Not anymore. They're eating." Edwin poured a cup of juice for Darius and Mary smilingly. "Oh," Orissa nodded, glancing toward the dining room. However, from where she sat, she couldn't see Benjamin's figure. At this moment, Benjamin stood up and walked out of the dining room. A faint smile played on his thin lips when he saw her looking around. He walked over, and Orissa watched him from a distance with a smile. Only when he got closer did she ask, "Have you guys finished eating?" He then instructed Edwin, "Edwin, please clear the table." "Yes, Mr. Graham." Edwin stood up to leave, and Mary quickly followed, saying, "I'll go with you." "Sure," Edwin replied with a beam, knowing that Mary couldn't sit still. As his previous attempts to stop her had been futile, he no longer bothered to stand on ceremony anymore. Benjamin sat down next to Orissa, fixing his gaze on her. "Shall I walk you back to your room?" "I don't want to go up yet," she responded in a low voice. Jonathan walked over and greeted Darius, who then invited the former to have tea. "Jonathan, come, taste my red hibernia." Darius brought out his new tea and beckoned to Jonathan. "It's rare to see you come over for a meal. Have you been busy lately?" Same old, same old. That's just how law firms are. Lots of trivial matters to deal with," answered Jonathan with a smile. He began chatting with Darius, but his gaze would occasionally fall on Benjamin and Orissa across from him. The warm, intimate scene between the couple compelled him to take a few more glances. Benjamin lowered his head and spoke softly to Orissa. "Then, how about I accompany you for a stroll in the garden?" Seeing that Darius and Jonathan were still there, Orissa was a bit shy. "It's best you join them for tea. You all had quite a bit of drinks tonight. Some tea would be good to sober up." "Edwin already made me a hangover remedy earlier," said Benjamin, placing his hand on her cheek to help her tuck a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Beaming, Orissa looked at him and also asked softly, "Did you eat?" "Yes," he replied without a hint of guilt, his eyes gleaming with tender affection. "Quit being lovey-dovey around here, you two. Benjamin, take her out for some fresh air quickly. It's not good to stay indoors all day." Darius saw the couple whispering and deliberately feigned displeasure to shoo them away. Jonathan smiled at them, joining in, "Just keep Orissa company, Benjamin. I'll have tea with old Mr. Graham." Benjamin took a gander at them, nodded, and picked up Orissa in his arms. "Let's go to the garden." Smiling embarrassedly, Orissa turned to Darius and Jonathan, suggesting, "Would you two like to take a stroll in the garden too?" "Nah, you two go ahead." Darius waved his hand, not wanting to disturb their lovey-dovey moment. "I'll have to head back soon, so I won't be joining you guys." Jonathan would never volunteer to play the third wheel. He glanced at Benjamin teasingly. Benjamin carried Orissa and walked straight out. Upon reaching the door, he instructed a bodyguard to fetch a coat for Orissa. Under the streetlight and moonlight, Orissa looked at the man's flawless, handsome face, feeling bliss in her heart. Chapter 1355. Benjamin lowered his eyes to meet her attentive gaze. With a slight smile, he asked, "What are you looking at?" Orissa's cheeks flushed a rosy red when she returned to her senses. She quickly made up an excuse and said, "I'm just curious to see how much it'll take to get you drunk." Benjamin's sharp eyebrows lifted slightly as he stared at her intensely. He carried her to the other side of the covered walkway and sat down. "When I want to get drunk, I'll naturally get drunk." Under his intense gaze, Orissa looked away immediately, wishing he would just speak plainly instead of being so devilishly charming. Seeing how Orissa had become shy, Benjamin's grin became wider. The occasional chirping of insects in the garden, coupled with the gentle breeze, made the atmosphere quite romantic. He lifted her chin up, intending to kiss her, when the bodyguard came over with Orissa's coat. "Mr. Graham, I have Mrs. Graham's coat," said the bodyguard quickly, handing the garment over. As soon as Benjamin took the garment, the bodyguard immediately ran off. Orissa felt a bit awkward and shot a bashful glare at a certain someone. Benjamin met her embarrassed gaze, leaned over, and planted a forceful kiss on her lips. "What are you staring at?" he asked. Orissa hummed softly in response, turning her head to admire the night view of the garden. With a smile, Benjamin draped the coat over her. Orissa found herself comfortably nestled in his arms while seated on his lap. Benjamin didn't disturb her as she admired the scenery. He rested his chin on her shoulder blade, inhaling her sweet scent, finding it somewhat addictive. "Where are Sean and the others running?" Orissa suddenly became curious and turned to ask him. Using his chin, Benjamin gestured toward the outside. "Along the path just outside the residence." Orissa laughed. "Wouldn't that mean running a dozen laps or so?" "Did they really go on that run?" asked Orissa with a smile. "You weren't even supervising. Aren't you going too easy on them? Do you want to watch?" Benjamin asked, looking at her. Orissa chuckled softly, murmuring under her breath, "It's a bit too far." Benjamin nodded. "That's true." Orissa's eyes widened. Is he dropping the subject just like that? With a light chuckle, Benjamin pinched her nose. "If you want to watch, just say so. I'll carry you there. Aren't your arms tired from carrying me?" Orissa pouted at him. They were still a few feet away from the main gate. "Shall I carry you there?" Benjamin lowered his head, his deep gaze meeting her shiny eyes. "No way." Orissa shook her head to remind him. "You might squish my belly." Benjamin looked at her steadily, his voice calm. "Then we won't go out and watch." Orissa glanced at him. She was not particularly interested, after all. Orissa was merely curious. Benjamin gave her a pointed glance, then pulled out his phone from his pocket. After a few taps, the surveillance footage from the street outside appeared on the screen. Orissa huffed out loud in annoyance. "I completely forgot that I could have watched it this way." Benjamin held the phone and presented it to her, smiling, as he said, "Look." Orissa quickly took his phone. She was unsure of how Benjamin managed it, but the surveillance camera angles seemed to follow Ethan and his group closely. It was as if there was a camera tracking them from behind. She was taken aback. "You installed surveillance cameras on the surrounding walls." "There's no need for that. There's a surveillance camera every few feet. As soon as you enter its range, the system automatically switches over to the next one." Benjamin explained things to her, which left Orissa somewhat speechless. This was definitely more convenient than a tracking camera. Pinhole cameras. She hadn't realized that there were so many surveillance cameras beyond the perimeter prior to this. Benjamin grunted in response and glanced at the video feed. "When did you install them?" Orissa continued to inquire. Benjamin gently stroked the back of her head. There was a hint of intimidation in his touch. "We installed them after thieves entered the house." The corner of Orissa's mouth twitched. "Is he talking about me?" "What thieves?" asked Orissa, gritting her teeth slightly. Benjamin leaned in close to her ear, whispering softly, "The thief of hearts." Orissa's ears tingled, then quickly turned red. Chapter 1356. Benjamin gently tugged her hand over and placed it on his chest, looking at her earnestly. He asked, "Tell me, how will you make it up to me?" Orissa was at her wit's end. "Isn't giving you 6 children enough?" Benjamin raised an eyebrow, his hand resting on her belly. "It's 7. Orissa smiled, giving him a sideways glance. "As long as you're aware. Honey, the pregnancy has been hard on you. Does it make you feel restricted?" Benjamin felt deeply sympathetic toward her. During her first pregnancy, she had to endure the hardship of carrying 6 children. Despite such a challenging situation, she managed to safely give birth to all of them. It was no easy feat. This time, he is determined to stay by her side and protect her well. "Of course, I feel restricted. Being a mother is never easy for anyone." Suddenly, Orissa fell silent, a trace of sorrow flashing across her face. Even though it disappeared quickly, Benjamin still noticed it. "What's wrong?" Benjamin asked, his voice laced with worry and a hint of anxiety. He was concerned that she might have been feeling unwell. A warm feeling spread through Orissa's heart, and she smiled. "Don't worry, you're too tense. I was just thinking of something." What's the matter? Benjamin asked, curious about what she was thinking. Orissa glanced at him, chuckled, then turned her attention back to the surveillance feed. How much weight are they carrying? In the surveillance footage, both Bradley and Sean were panting heavily, barely able to lift their feet. Orissa knew about Bradley's physical fitness, but she didn't expect him to be panting like this. The weights had to be very heavy. Jack seemed to be the most at ease while running, showing no signs of strain at all. Next was Ethan, but he appeared a bit out of breath. Benjamin shifted his gaze from her face, glanced at the surveillance video, and uttered, 110 pounds. Orissa's mouth twitched slightly, showing a hint of sympathy for them. Do you always punish them so harshly? It depends on the situation, said Benjamin mildly. This is the lightest punishment I could think of. Orissa's mouth gaped in astonishment. Isn't he being too harsh? What's the heaviest? Asked Orissa, glancing at him curiously. I'll have them sent to a deserted island, replied Benjamin while pinching her cheek. Then I'll have them fed to the sharks. Orissa looked at him in shock. That bad? What are you scared of? I'm not going to punish you. Benjamin was just teasing her. Under normal circumstances, he was not going to punish anyone so severely. Only if someone betrayed him, committing an unforgivable crime, would they be given to the sharks. I'm not scared, Orissa huffed, taking his hand and playfully fiddling with his slender fingers. I just think that they are your friends who work tirelessly by your side. This punishment seems a bit too harsh. Do you think I would punish them arbitrarily? Benjamin retorted, his gaze firmly locking onto hers. Orissa met his gaze, looking unwavering and resolute. She then shook her head and said, no. With a light chuckle, Benjamin looked at her and responded, only those who betray me will face the most severe punishment. Orissa understood this. She then thought of Kingsley being thrown into the desert and chuckled gently. Isn't your punishment for Kingsley a bit harsher than theirs? That guy hasn't been disciplined by me for a long time. He's becoming more and more unruly and even thought about escaping. If I don't punish him severely, he'll never learn. Benjamin snorted coldly. Orissa looked at him with a smile. So, how would you punish the children if they misbehaved? The children were merely made to stand in a corner, which, relatively speaking, was the lightest form of punishment. Benjamin raised an eyebrow, looking at her intently. Do you want to hear the truth? Of course. Orissa nodded, waiting for his decision. Benjamin curved his lips into a smile. Originally, I didn't intend to punish the children this time. Huh. Orissa looked at him in surprise, unable to believe it. This man is usually so strict. Why did he choose to hold off their punishment? The kids have just started to warm up to me. If I punish them now, they'll start ignoring me again. Benjamin then sighed worriedly. Chapter 1357. Puff. Ha. Orissa couldn't hold back her laughter. Meeting Benjamin's frustrated gaze, she quickly composed herself and comfortingly patted his hand. If the kids knew about this decision, they'd probably love you more than they love me. I won't spare them this time. Benjamin wasn't too surprised and inquired in a hushed tone, so, how did you punish them? Orissa huffed several times before explaining, I confiscated their phones and computers. They can't touch these or watch TV for a week. Benjamin was taken aback for a moment, then chuckled softly. She certainly knew how to discipline the kids. By the way, you didn't punish them, so why did they end up in timeout? Orissa found it quite odd, and her look toward Benjamin was a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Probably their own guilt made them voluntarily stand in timeout. Benjamin's lips curled up slightly. The kids had learned from past experiences. Orissa laughed along, then cautioned him, well, let them stand there for a while. They promised us they won't do it again too soon. My heart can't handle it. Benjamin nodded, not seeing any issue with a little punishment. Won't it break your heart? Orissa frowned. Even though I feel sorry for them, I'm not unreasonable. If they need to be disciplined, then they should be. As long as your punishments are justified in the future, I won't stop you. Benjamin combed his fingers through her hair and continued, during the break, I'm thinking of sending them to the base for some training. Orissa frowned. Sending the kids for a military-style education during the vacation had its merits, but she felt they might be a bit young for that. Can't we wait until they're a bit older? Maybe we can have Jack, Bradley, or one of the bodyguards teach them some self-defense first. Sending them after a few more years of school might be better. She worried about the kids adjusting to such an environment, especially Tim and Jessie. Tim had no prior exposure to such training, and Jessie, being a girl, might struggle with the hardships. We can have them practice at home during normal times, and when I have time, I can personally teach them. But sending them for training during the holidays would be better. When they're a bit older, I'd like to enroll them all in the base to study their specialties. Orissa listened to Benjamin's plans. While she didn't want the kids to endure hardships, she knew that such training would be beneficial for them, especially in their role within the Graham family. By the time the baby is born, you won't have much time to manage all of them. Sending them to school would also give you some relief. Benjamin didn't want her to be too focused on the kids, it would be exhausting. Orissa looked at him and confessed, I like having the kids around me. Benjamin gently ran his fingers through her hair and reassured her. I know, they'll come back during their breaks, and if you miss them, we can visit them. Orissa had never intended for her children to grow up in a sheltered environment. She agreed with Benjamin's decision but reminded him, yes, I agree. But you should take it step by step. Don't be too strict from the beginning, especially since Tim has no experience with martial training. Benjamin promised, I understand. The kids still have time at home, and I'll train them for a while. Orissa nodded and leaned against him. The thought of her children going for military-style training soon made her feel a little reluctant. Benjamin, seeing her like this, chuckled and teased, how about we go inside and check on them? Orissa glanced at him and scolded playfully, no. If she looked at them, her stance would waver. She had to let them go through the full punishment. All right, Benjamin agreed. Playing along, he stayed with her in the garden for a while longer, enjoying the scenery. Chapter 1358. In the study, the 6 little ones stood in their designated spots, behaving well even without supervision. They refrained from chatting or trying to escape the punishment. Jonathan, curious about their discipline, approached them quietly and observed for a while. He didn't see any signs of them slacking off. How long do you plan on standing there? Hearing his voice, the 6 children turned to look at him and politely greeted, Mr. Patterson. We'll stop when Dad is satisfied with us, Gavin replied to his previous question. Jonathan walked closer, ruffling their hair with a smile. I didn't hear your dad say he was going to punish you, did I? The 6 kids exchanged puzzled glances. Did that mean their dad wouldn't punish them? However, they remembered that Sean and the others were punished earlier. They lowered their heads, realizing that their dad might not have said it out loud, but he would probably still punish them. Otherwise, why would he not stop them from enacting their timeout? Mr. Patterson, you don't understand. If we wait for Dad to say it, he'll probably punish us even more, Zachary explained with a wry smile. It was better to start their own punishments instead. Jonathan chuckled and shook his head. It seems I won't be able to play with you tonight. The little ones looked at him, and Jessie, in her sweet voice, asked, Mr. Patterson, are you leaving? Jonathan nodded and replied, I have some work to prepare for tomorrow. Mr. Patterson, you should go back. Work hard to win the case tomorrow. Gavin encouraged him sincerely. Jonathan was delighted. All right, when I win, I'll treat you to a big meal. The children expressed their happiness and gratitude, their soft, childlike voices bringing a sense of contentment to Jonathan. After spending some more time with the kids, Jonathan bid them farewell and prepared to leave. Old Mr. Graham, I'm heading back. Take it easy with the drinks. I'll go inform Benjamin, Jonathan said to Darius, thinking Benjamin was still in the garden. Darius informed him, Benjamin just went upstairs. Jonathan nodded and headed outside. He went around to the balcony near the master bedroom and called out to Benjamin upstairs. Benjamin. Benjamin had just carried Orissa upstairs. Upon hearing Jonathan's voice, he gently set Orissa down on the bed and walked over to the balcony. Benjamin, I'm heading back. Just wanted to let you know. Jonathan waved from below. Let Miguel's team drive you back. Benjamin reminded him. He knew Jonathan had also been drinking, so having the security team drive him was safer. "All right, please tell Arissa I'll come to see her another day," Jonathan requested. Benjamin waved in acknowledgement. Seeing Jonathan go to call the security team to drive him, Benjamin turned and entered the bedroom. "He's gone." Arissa had heard Jonathan's voice from the room. "Yeah." Benjamin nodded and glanced at her before heading into the bathroom. "I'll go prepare the bath for you." Arissa waited as Benjamin got everything ready in the bathroom. He then came out and carried her inside. He stayed with her throughout her bath, even blow-drying her hair, before finally heading downstairs. "Old Mr. Graham, you should get some rest soon," Benjamin advised, seeing Darius was still drinking tea with Edwin and the others. "I know." Darius shot him a glare and muttered under his breath, "No wonder Jesse and the others refuse to call you Daddy, they've learned it all from you." Edwin chuckled and teased Darius, "Old Mr. Graham, be careful not to let Mr. Graham hear that." "I'm not scared of him," Darius huffed, puffing out his chest. Mary smiled at Darius's adorable demeanor. Benjamin didn't pay any more attention to Darius and walked straight to the study. Seeing the 6 little ones standing at attention, facing the wall in reflection, he was reasonably satisfied. "How long have you been standing here?" Hearing his sudden question, Jesse, Jasper, and Tim jumped in surprise, making quite noticeable movements. Benjamin raised an eyebrow slightly, scanning his gaze over the kids. Chapter 1359. Zachary, Gavin, and Oliver turned their heads to look at Benjamin. They wondered if their dad walked without making any sound. When Benjamin saw the frightened looks on the children's faces, his brows furrowed slightly. "Did I scare you? Isn't it obvious?" Zachary retorted, clearly annoyed. Benjamin let out a light hum. When Zachary glanced at him, their gazes met. In the next second, his attention shifted elsewhere. "You walk so quietly that you frightened your younger siblings," Gavin scolded with a tense expression. Benjamin's eyes narrowed as he locked gazes with Gavin. He then shifted his attention to the other children. "Are you tired from standing?" Benjamin asked them again, his hands clasped behind his back, exuding an air of authority. The little children pouted their lips as they knew from his tone that Jonathan had been comforting them earlier. "I'm so tired," Jasper exclaimed when he saw they remained silent. "My feet are hurting." Benjamin nodded and looked at them. "Do you still remember why you were made to stand as punishment?" The kids pursed their lips, obediently faced the wall, and fell silent. Benjamin stared at the backs of their heads and instructed, "Everyone, turn around." The 6 kids stealthily exchanged glances before slowly turning to face Benjamin. Their eyes were cast down, not daring to look directly at him. "If your mom hadn't found out, I would have let you guys off the hook this time." "What a pity," Benjamin revealed to them. The children all looked up in surprise as they realized that what Jonathan said was true. "You could also choose not to punish us." Oliver glanced at him and mumbled under his breath. "Since all of you have upset your mom, you shall stand there until the time is up." Benjamin's face was stern, leaving no room for negotiation. He wanted to make Arissa happy. The children didn't dare to object, fearing that their mom would make them run dozens of kilometers. "Do you know how long Mommy asked us to stand?" Gavin glanced at Benjamin. Arissa didn't mention how long they were supposed to stand just now. "What do you think?" Benjamin playfully asked the children, allowing them to make the choice. Gavin gulped and turned to look at his younger brothers and sisters. The children exchanged glances. "Just let us know how long you want us to stand here," Zachary asked directly. He was ready to face the consequences and did not want to make the decision himself. Benjamin chuckled slightly when he noticed the children lifted their chin higher. "It's not about whether we are satisfied or not, we want you to understand what's wrong with your actions and why you are being punished. Once you've figured it out, there will be no need for punishment." Benjamin turned around and walked back to his desk without informing them of the time. The children's eyes were closely tracking his movements, and they pondered whether to claim they understood their mistake. Benjamin took his seat and started working instead of continuing the discussion with the children. The kids exchanged glances, and in the end, they all silently agreed to stand there for another half an hour. "Daddy, we were wrong. We won't cause trouble anymore. Gavin, the eldest, said to Benjamin. Benjamin put down the document in his hand and looked up at the 6 children who were still standing obediently. You said the same thing last time. Gavin pursed his lips and reasoned with Benjamin. That bad guy kidnapped Tim and Zachary and even made Tim sick. We're furious. Even though Daddy has taken revenge on him, we want to teach him a lesson in our own way. Benjamin scoffed lightly. Your teachings are nothing more than child's play. It doesn't affect him at all. In fact, you might even put yourselves in danger. Again, even though the children were angry, they knew what Benjamin said was right. Do you know his Achilles heel? Zachary furrowed in deep concentration as he stared intently at Benjamin. To deal with an enemy, one must strike at their weak points. That's where they would feel the blow the most. The children merely gave their enemy a beating, so the punishment was relatively mild. Chapter 1360. I know you're unhappy, but Justin is no ordinary man. I promise all of you that he will never be allowed to get away with his actions. Benjamin reassured his children that he would not let Justin off the hook, especially after he had dared to harm his kids. I've told you before, if you need anything, come to me. Don't just take matters into your own hands. If you're in danger, your mom and I will be very worried. Do you want me and your mom to worry? Benjamin's stern reminder served as a timely wake-up call for the children. No, Gavin replied grumpily. Tim and the others looked at Benjamin apologetically. From now on, we'll listen to you. If it weren't for Daddy, Tim and Zachary wouldn't have been able to return safely. Benjamin tapped his fingers on the table, struggling to get their attention. To avoid being manipulated by enemies, one must become strong. The children looked at him, taking his words to heart without question. Benjamin looked at them and said, you are still young and immature. To put it bluntly, you're still children. Don't deny this, as acknowledging that you're still young is nothing to be ashamed of. You should bravely face the realities that come with your age. Just because you're being outsmarted and taken advantage of now doesn't mean you'll always be weak. If you merely chase the fleeting satisfaction of revenge instead of focusing on self-improvement, you will become vulnerable to manipulation by the time you reach my age. The only thing you need to do now is to learn to protect yourself. Only by protecting yourself from danger would you be able to grow. Once you all become stronger, naturally, there will be nothing to fear. After a short pause, he continued, I've discussed it with your mom, and we've decided that during the holidays, we'll send you to the base for training. For the next few years, you'll continue attending school like other kids and lead a normal campus life. Once you're a bit older, we'll send you back to learn more systematic knowledge. I will also continue to teach you some self-defense techniques for the next few years. Base. Zachary looked at Benjamin curiously, a hint of excitement stirring within him. He pondered if Benjamin meant the renowned facility that had fostered numerous technological talents. Zachary's hacking skills were impressive. He had previously investigated Benjamin's situation and knew that Benjamin had a formidable base, but he didn't know where the base was. Oliver and Jasper's eyes lit up as if they hadn't heard anything else. Their focus lay solely on this matter. Tim didn't know what the base was, so he looked at Benjamin in confusion. Gavin, who had been raised by Benjamin, was the one who understood the base the most. Upon hearing that they were to be sent there, Gavin furrowed his brow. He didn't oppose the idea, but he had some concerns. Daddy, are you sending us all away? Is Jessie going with us too? How can such a delicate little girl like Jessie endure hardships with us? Gavin felt sorry for Jessie. Tim wasn't worried about the arrangement as he was a boy. However, he didn't want his little sister to go there with him. Exactly, the base. Benjamin answered Zachary's question. When he saw that the children raised no objections, he felt relieved. Finally, he turned his gaze to Gavin. All of you should go together. Your sister has her own educational plan. When your mother gives birth to your younger brother or sister, they will also be sent to the base when they grow up. Benjamin would not favor any child. They would be able to withstand the trials of life in the future only if they could endure hardships when they were young. I will provide additional educational resources tailored to your interests and hobbies. If you Don't want to end up being useless in the future, you must study hard.